So it is one of the big political stories that's currently unfolding. The ANC National Youth Task Team has cancelled all its planned meetings with youth league structures throughout the country. This is following a string of chaotic and violent clashes, including the killing of a member in Hammanskraal this past weekend.
Yes, but the question is, how do these challenges in the ANC Youth League affect the broader battles for control in the ANC and the state? Joined by good friend of the show's political analyst, Jamie Mighti, another good friend of the show's as well, political philosopher, Dr. Tshepo Moloi, just to help us get to the bottom of this. Gentlemen, so here's the thing. We do know that the ANC Youth League, for example, has been defunct for the last 2 years, right? And I suppose you can argue that in the absence of that, the ANC hasn't had a youth structure pretty much since Julius left, so maybe for the last 5 years. That should affect the future of the ANC going forward. What are your thoughts regarding that? Before we even start speaking about the current state of the ANC and the contestation of power, because, again, whoever emerges as a new ANC Youth League leader would have to fall on either side, so either the SG side or the president's side. Now, the assumption is that the president and the SG are on the same side, but realistically, we know they're not. So before we get to that, let's just speak about the ANC Youth League itself.
Okay, good morning to the viewers. So, look, it's a sad day to lose a life in the name of politics. So what happened in Hammanskraal is really, I mean, it's not even politics. That's just, you know, I don't know what you want, a relevant term to rephrase it. But look, I agree. The Youth League has been in tatters ever since Julius left. Open secret. They've not got their act together for a while now. And obviously, given the factions and given who you are aligning with, this is impacting on whatever position you're going to obviously have. Right. So for me, this is no longer the Youth League of Anton Lembede. Right. This is the Youth League, I think, as we've inherited it from Malusi Kigaba's term in '91, where you started to see the flashiness of material. It's not about the political agenda of the people, but it's about themselves and the looting and the tenders, you know. And so 2 weeks back, we had I think, something called the Festival of Ideas, which the ANC was hosting in the name of commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Morogoro Conference. And all the Youth League members that took the stage, all of them kept saying the same thing. We want our Youth League back. We need to come back to office, blah, 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 blah. But all of them, they are all part of this latest mess that is happening now, because it's all about, you know, we want to get into power so that they can also have their hands on the loot. And so for me, they seriously need a serious revision going forward.
So, I mean, it's a tale of two cities in the Youth League. If you look at their university structures, they are still relatively well organized, and they still operate as a pipeline for bureaucracy. So what happens is a lot of the talent at the universities then goes to work for the city, et cetera, et cetera. And especially those close to Luthuli House, they do well. So if you look at places like Wits, the ANC Youth League is actually quite strong on the campus, and they actually won the SRC. But when you look at the instances where there are mass meetings, you see this division between the classes, those who are close to the ANC power structures and those who feel like they're on the ground and they're not getting any benefits, quote unquote. So that's a tension that exists within the Youth League. When you look at it from the mother body perspective, I actually don't think that the mother body has an incentive to fix the Youth League. I think they prefer this chaos and commotion because they are scared of what a unified and a strong leader could do. So last year, there was a bit of a fear that Mcebo Dlamini could emerge from the floor and become the president of the Youth League. Now, the fear with that was he's a wild card. He could shoot you or he could shoot the other guy, because he really wakes up in the morning and decides what are in his own interests. Now, having had a leader like Julius Malema, who was a kingmaker and was good at organizing the structures, the fear is, as the inequality persists, as we start having more youth unemployment, are you able to control whoever becomes an effective leader of the youth? And if you look broadly, if you look at Nkrumah Nkrumah came in by being able to appeal to the youth structures. He was like, these old guys are not effective, let me handle business. And it wasn't exactly the best decision because he was too fresh for governance. But if you also look at Lumumba, it was the same thing. It was a youth leader who was able to mobilize young people and actually then remove the older guys from power. So I think that as we have an incumbency that is really interested in maintaining status quo and rolling out gains slowly, and this is part of what Cyril typifies, they're really worried that, look, we're not really going to do anything in the next 5 years to deal with unemployment, education, healthcare, or crime. We are basically trying to manage this economy for the bookkeepers, right? We need to impress Centon, we need to impress Moody's, but that means that it's going to be hostile in the townships.
But then why wouldn't that unified force come from the student structure, right? Because as you mentioned, and I actually have to agree with you, there probably isn't a need now for middle management, so to speak. It's directly from the mother body down to the students. You can recruit from there. You get the youthful blood and the freshness of it. And students have proven that by themselves they can mobilize. So why wouldn't that revolt come from the student side, if it were to come?
Well, the short answer is the class divide. The university students are in that elite bracket of ANC political structures. They're the ones with iPads. Some of them are driving already. They aren't viewed on the ground a lot of times as being a legitimate conveyor of the issues. So when they go onto the ground, and if you look at the conflicts that has been breaking out, it's people saying, you guys over there on the other side controlling the meeting, you guys are eating, and we're here starving, and we want some of that action. And unfortunately, because of the way that this organization has been handled, you're not just going to get a government job on the basis of the fact that you were a good member of the Youth League. There are other dynamics, which is why the university students benefit more than the average members, because they are coming from townships, they are coming from places where they don't have the paperwork to progress in the bureaucratic machine of government.
Dr. Tshepo, so what happens in the instance where the Youth League of Lembede, of Mandela, doesn't get it together? It never comes back, especially in the context of, for instance, the EFF, which has been quite effective in kind of rallying, pulling together, organizing young people, even at universities, both on the ground, but also even in the very elitist spaces of higher education. So what does that mean? Also, when we know that young people are the most significant demographic in the country.
And the continent.
And the continent. So what does that mean for the future of the mother body if they, the young lions, so to speak, don't ever get it together and become the effective structure it used to be, that also used to hold the mother body to account?
So, look, we need to just make peace with the fact that we're not going to get the old ANC or the ANC Youth League back. Times are changing. The kind of student body that you have now and the kind of student leader that you have coming out of the system is dealing with different dynamics. So, it's going to be a tough cut to pull, to be wanting to go back to the olden days. But for me, the greatest carrot that they have to deal with is contesting the EFF's presence. As their real contender, because it's actually, if you think about it, I mean, these guys only differ in terms of the colors of the shirts they wear, but it's in essence the same thing, right? And they need to somehow reinvent themselves in such a way that they can distinguish themselves apart from the others, which is going to be a very tall order. But I think, in all seriousness, going forward with regards to the youth unemployment, with regards to the poor leadership at mother body level, I think the one thing that I think they need to really, really strengthen is trying to get as much of their educated leaders into the system. That could be a start, and they can take it from there.
Gentlemen, that's where we need to leave it. Thank you very much for joining us. Political analyst Jamie Mighti, political philosopher Dr. Tshepo Moloi.